Hello and welcome to the top 60 of James Bond villains. I have set us up on the first of today's slides. We are on Dr. Carl Mortner of A View to a Kill. Now, this is the sort of guy Roger Moore was fighting by the time he got to the end of his tenure, an old age pensioner on a hot air balloon. He sort of comes out of nowhere, Mortner. He's not really in A View to a Kill a lot, and then just at the end, he just seems to become one of the big bad guys fighting alongside Zorin right at the death. Speaking of his death, it's a little bit silly. He sort of gets this dynamite out and then he stands at the entrance to the hot air balloon not throwing it, and then Bond looks up and sees him. Still Mortner doesn't throw the dynamite, and then Bond reaches for an axe and hits this rope, and still he's not throwing that dynamite, and then it takes a while for the shudder to go up the rope and knock the balloon away from the thing, and he's still not throwing the dynamite. So then he falls back into the balloon, and then Scarpine wakes up and they're having this weird tug of war with the dynamite. They're like the Chuckle Brothers, like to you, to me, to you, and then the balloon blows up. It's like, oh, terrible, but let's just move on. 59, we have Kristatos from For Your Eyes Only, a very bit of a boring villain for a main guy, I would say. I'm not entirely sure why I put him this high on the list, to be honest. I'd like to go back a week ago to the James back then and ask him exactly why I did that, but I don't have a time machine, so I don't know. But I do think this guy was more suited to playing the role that he did in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where he was very good. But here he's just very bland, and even his death sequence with the knife is not all that great. He's got henchmen getting kicked off the cliff left, right and centre, but not him. So I think he's done pretty well being 59, because I think he could easily have come lower. So let's move on. 58, we've got Patrice, who causes a bit of a shock at the beginning of Skyfall by beating Bond in a really big sequence that seems to bounce through about 4 or 5 different vehicles, and then he has this other really good fight with Bond at the top of this skyscraper in Shanghai later in the movie. The only bad thing about Patrice is that he doesn't speak, and we're kind of getting a little tired of kind of mute henchmen by this point, but on the whole, he's very tough. Bond finds it extremely hard to beat him, and I think 58 is a good spot for him. 57 is Gabor, and he is another one who I can't really explain their placing ahead of so many others. I think his best attribute is just the fact that he looks really cool as a villain. He's in this film a lot. He doesn't die till quite close to the end, and he just looks really cool. And he speaks a little bit, and here I am complaining about silent villains, and Gabor isn't one of them, thankfully. 56 is Damballa from Live and Let Die. I have seen this film many, many times, and I've only just learned that this guy actually has a name from researching this list. And it sort of peed on my parade a little bit, because I just used to call him Goathead. And now he apparently has a name that sounds quite real. I wish he didn't have it, to be honest. He's a completely freaky guy. I mean, look at this picture. He takes obscene pleasure in torturing people to death with snakes. He's just one of the most sinister and weird and freaky people you will see in any film, never mind a Bond film, and it's sort of cool that he gets taken out, actually. So, number 56, we have Damballa, apparently. That's what he's called. 55, we have Elektra. I think Elektra's a very good villainess. I do think that Sophie Marceau may have been better playing the role of Christmas Jones. I think she would have... I mean, the role of Christmas has become a bit of a joke over the years because of the way Denise Richards played it. I think if Sophie Marceau had played that role, I think it would have been a lot better. That role would have been better in the hands of a sort of actress in her 30s, and maybe a European one. I'm not sure if Denise Richards could then have come the other way and played Elektra. I'm not sure she's a good enough actress for that, but that's what I've always thought anyway. But as it is, Elektra's pretty good. She's obviously extremely nasty once it gets revealed in the film that she's been one of the bad guys all along. But 54, we have Elliot Carver. I love it when he does his little imitation of Wei Ling, going, hi, 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 hi. That's very funny. On the whole, he's just a little bit too pointlessly evil, Elliot, I think. I mean, this guy is basically a billionaire owner of all these newspapers. Presumably he's obscenely rich, and so I just don't see the need for his obsession to sort of expand his empire further. It makes no sense to me. I do like his death scene though. It's a really nice violent death scene where Bond sort of pushes him into his own machinery, so he scores a few points for that, but doesn't quite make the top 50. 53, we have Tee Hee from Live and Let Die. This guy obviously smiles a lot. He's very famous for having his mechanical arm, a prop which I don't think looks that good, to be honest. It literally looks like somebody's just stuck a tin can on the end of his arm. As for his death, that's interesting because I think we're meant to presume that he dies, but the way that he's just pushed out of the train, I kind of think that, would he not maybe survive that? I mean, if you think in The Spy Who Loved Me, when Jaws gets pushed out of the window, Jaws kind of just stands up and goes, and I kind of think even with one arm, Tee Hee could just as easily get up from that and go, and just be alive. So who knows? It's kind of weird how so many bad guys in Live and Let Die either escape or die in a way that might not be a death. I mean, that film has such a sinister, black sort of undertone throughout most of it. It's just kind of bizarre. But anyway, Tee Hee is at 53, and 52 we have Gobinder, another henchman. He's very tough, this guy, very mean, but probably, again, like a few of the other villains on this little segment, he probably suffers a little bit from maybe just not having enough personality. He's just basically a big, mean thug, and he doesn't really do much apart from that. I do find it interesting the bit towards the end where he looks scared for the first time in the movie when Kamal Khan asks him to go out on the plane. Normally you get a bad guy like that, they get told to go outside on a plane and they'll just go, oh yeah, absolutely, I'll go and get him. You know, but Gobinder, he just absolutely scared witless. But so on the whole, not bad, not bad. And finally today we have at 51 Miranda Frost. And I believe this is the final villain who will feature on the list from Die Another Day. So this film hasn't really done that well on the whole, but Miranda's probably one of the better things about it. She has an interesting journey in the movie in that she sort of starts, dare I say, frosty towards Bond, and then it's found out that she later on is a villain, and it's all done very well, and she's very good as a villain. But if there's one downside, it's the end fight. It's just not very good. The writer goes all PC and insists that a woman must fight a woman and a man must fight a man, and it's just a really unsatisfying end for her. But on the whole, she's a decent villain, but just misses out on the top 50. So that's the end of today's list. We've gone from 60 to 51. I don't know if you've noticed any increased quality in the picture today, but I have upgraded from a Samsung 8 to a Samsung 10, and in the next week or so, I'm even going to be upgrading to a video camcorder, which is very exciting, so I could get some better audio and picture. Now, I know some of you probably think, oh, he's selling out, he's going commercial, he's going to get all this good picture and audio now, he's just not going to be the same James anymore, and maybe that's a valid criticism. You know, I do think I'll look back on some of these early phone cam videos one day and think, oh, that was me back when I was cutting my teeth on the YouTube streets, you know, virtually pirate YouTube almost. But you know, sometimes you've got to move on. But I'll take the criticism. I'll take the criticism. Okay, right, okay, I've gabbled enough. I will see you next time.